meets mind, we ponder, we dream.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. My name's Chris Kalabukas, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking technology, philosophy, the future. Not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you can be notified when a new show comes online. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe and please drop a note on Apple Podcasts. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. What are we talking about today? Oh yeah, surveillance pricing. So, I don't know if you're familiar. You've probably booked a hotel room or a airline fare online, right? And if you've booked an airline fare online, you probably noticed that every time you hit that website to look at that fare, it's different. On one day it's this, on another day it's that, on one day it's this, on another day it's that. It's not constant. It changes all the time. And who you have to thank for that is, I think it's British Airways. I'm not exactly sure who invented it, but the concept of revenue management. And the concept of revenue management is simply this, is that for these types of things that have an expiration date, for example, a flight on a specific day to a specific from a specific place to another specific place, these things have an expiration date. And in order to properly price that thing, that flight from San Francisco to Toronto or whatever it is on that particular day, at that particular time, so many things. So there's lots of things that go into that particular price. So it's the cost of the fuel, it's the cost of the airplane, the maintenance, the people on board. There's a certain minimal price or a minimal cost to the airlines for them to run that flight from point A to point B. But above that price, everything is profit. So I think it was British Airways, let's see. They came up with this concept that it would look at all of the variables around that particular date, time, price, what other airlines were charging, and it would use math to come up with a price. And the price would be high enough so that there was good profitability, but it would also be low enough that somebody would pay for it. And this was back in, I think, the late 80s when they first came up with it. And since then, it's gotten more and more and more sophisticated, and more variables were added in order to determine what that price is. And mostly, I think it's travel mostly uses it now because it's usually about something that has an expiration date. So it's something that will happen on a particular day and then it's gone, because the value of that thing will change up until the day it's being used, and then it disappears. It no longer exists. Right? Unlike, say, I don't know, a coffee mug or something like that, because you can get that, you can continue to get that coffee mug. That coffee mug can still be bought, can still be created, can still be made. So unlike physical objects, it's different, right? So the value of these things fluctuates, and the value of these things fluctuate based on all sorts of different factors. How much demand there is, what other airlines are charging, is there a conference in that city on that day? All of these things are factored in to this number, and these systems are revenue management systems, and they use very sophisticated calculations to try and figure out what the price should be. Now recently, there has been discussions about something called surveillance pricing. And surveillance pricing is almost an extension of that. And the way surveillance pricing works is that it also uses data to set a price. But where it gets that data from, so it can get the data from the demand, it can get the data from the seasonality, it can get the data from all sorts of sources. But the part that people have a big problem with is the surveillance part. Because basically what it does, and I don't know if you've been to a Kohl's lately, it's kind of a department store. And if you go to Kohl's, and other stores have this too, they have LCD panels for prices. So when you walk up, you go to Safeway or whatever, you see that can of soup, it says $1.69 on an LCD panel or whatever. So the idea is that with surveillance pricing is that it can actually detect who is walking towards that price tag. So if somebody, say a poor student, walks toward the price tag, it would detect that this poor student is walking toward the price tag. And it would say, okay, this poor student can't afford this at that price. So what it would do is it would automatically adjust the price specifically for that individual. In the same way that when you're booking for airline flights, those prices are adjusted specifically for you, because not only does it track other competitors and the date and time and conferences and weather and stuff like that. How many times did you go back to that web page? If you're not using private mode, it'll detect that, oh, this person he's coming back again. He's coming back again. Oh, let me see if I can kick it up a little bit, so it creates a little bit of urgency so that they buy the ticket. So they use online, when you're buying an airline ticket, they use that same tactic to get you to buy, because you're looking at it and it's, oh my God, it's going up. I better buy it now. It's false, but they trick you into thinking that it's going up because they want to get you to buy it. It's the same way with this surveillance pricing. So the surveillance pricing works in the same way, but it also factors in the individual, what it knows about the individual as they walk towards the item that's being priced. Now, I think this is going to be a little difficult to do in reality, but Amazon Go and other types of these grab-and-go companies, where, I don't know if you're familiar with Amazon Go, it's the one where you scan your card on the way in, and there's cameras all over watching what you're doing. They're watching you pick this up, put it down. They're watching you pick this up, put it down. Every time you pick something up, it detects, oh, Chris picked up that thing. Chris picked up that thing. Chris picked up that thing. And then the moment I walk out with all these things in my arm or in a basket or in a bag, it goes, okay, here's those 10 things that Chris has in his bag. Let's charge him for them. Now, surveillance pricing works this way. I walk in, it detects who I am. It goes, oh, he makes so much. He can afford so much. So the prices will automatically change based on what the system thinks I can pay. So it might not even have a price on the actual object, but you might be able to see the price by looking at it on your phone. So the price may change for me specifically. So as I'm looking at it, it might say, hey, this can of soup is $1.69, whereas my poor student friend be walking by the case and it would say 99 cents to try and entice them to buy. So this is a natural extension of this revenue management concept. What's wrong with that? Well, some people might say that's predatory, because you can conceivably go in there and say, well, you know what? I can configure this thing so that even the poor students are paying more, or the rich people are paying less, or the white people are paying this, and the black people are paying that, and the Asians are paying that. So you can go in there and you can use demographics and ethnographics to change your pricing based on the individuals you want to charge what, where to. I can understand why the Federal Trade Commission might want to step in here and say, whoa. But if you ask me, this is sort of like the ultimate extension of retail, because we're going to get to that point where not only are airline fares being priced this way, each and everything is being priced this way. You don't think that Amazon's doing that right now? You don't think that Amazon, when you go to Amazon and you look at something and then you look at it again and the price has gone up, doesn't it entice you to buy a little bit more? Or maybe the price has gone down a little bit. Oh, the price is coming down. I better buy. Companies are using this. They're using this data all the time. So surveillance pricing is actually already happening. It's more subtle, but it's going to be happening more and more and more as more of these devices can detect who's standing in the store, who's looking at that can of soup, and how can we entice them to buy. And if you think about it, it's pretty sad that they're using all of this technology on the back end to get us to buy more stuff, and we, poor humans, have nothing. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.
Pixels and philosophies merge and mold, a future untold, unseen.